my word, what a save.
She gets around Dunbar, out wide, but she puts it in the net. Lovely strike, lovely bit of play.
Oh, and he's looking to catch the goalkeeper out. It is an unbelievable goal.
Hello and welcome to Kickoff, the Football New South Wales podcast for NPL men's, women's and leagues competitions. I'm your host, Pellizzeri, and delighted to see back from international duty, Maeve Sparrow. Maeve, great to see you.
Great to see you too, Tay. I missed you.
And big thanks to Abs, who was here while you were away in China helping the Junior Matildas, Australia's under-17 team, qualify for the Under-17 Women's World Cup. Lots of New South Wales players in that squad. What an experience for you as well.
Oh, it was an amazing experience. I got to be the media manager and content person there in China with the squad. Some amazing NPL names and also A-League names from the squad who also played in our, the Emerging Matildas Championships, Nationals as well from New South Wales. So it's definitely a very heavy New South Wales
You've
vibe.
got a few new mates to watch their progress through into senior NPL over the next couple of years, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. I'm super excited to see them come back to the NPL and also where they go if they go overseas as well. It was a beautiful squad. We made history qualifying for the Under-17s World Cup. No Australian team has done that on the women's side before. So they're heading off there to Morocco. And it was an awesome experience. I loved every second.
And no time to rest because the World Cup is on. We're recording this on the day of Uruguay and Saudi Arabia drawing 1-1 for anyone wondering, or New Zealand's first game of the tournament's about to kick off once we wrap up here.
Yes.
But Maeve, you've got a bit of a World Cup involvement over on SBS as well. So we see you on the Football New South Wales socials out at games each weekend, but you've taken your skills to the World Cup and someone else is getting to benefit from them.
Yes, I love working the World Cup. It's the best time of year, in my opinion, even though it comes every 4 years. It's really exciting. Also, some other Football New South Wales names. You've got Adamo, you've also got Sam Yemen, who are also out and about on the SBS and doing coverage, crosses as well. But the World Cup's been a great experience. And the Socceroos, come on. Seriously, Tay, what do you think?
Well, it's awesome in that it's going to have everyone walking with a spring in their step to training, to games, whether you're a player, a coach, a spectator. It really, you feel a lot of pride and a lot of collective responsibility because, NPL is a key part of the pyramid.
Definitely.
And I saw a lot of references to Patrick Beach's, pathway through, from Western Sydney to being the starting goalkeeper of the Socceroos. So, it all contributes. It all makes a difference. And I think everyone can feel really happy with, doing their part out at their ground each weekend when the national teams get to, get the job done on the biggest stage of them all, which is what we're going to focus on here. The NPLs and what is going on around our competitions. We're just past the midway point of the season, Maeve, and we've got a couple of important cup semi-finals coming up in the Waratah and Sapphire Cup. Both title races and relegation battles are really starting to take shape. The ladders have, to an extent, sorted themselves out with who's where.
Yep.
I've got to say that one of our guests today coming in from Fraser Park, Reuben Awaritefe. That club, Fraser Park, very nearly on the national stage in the round of 32 in the Australia Cup, only for Sydney Olympic to come back and beat them in what was an amazing night. And we have our 4 teams that are going to the national rounds and representing Football New South Wales again in the Australia Cup round of 32. And, we've got some strong teams in there. I think that SD Raiders get back in for the second year in a row, which is a credit to them. Sydney United, RPL Leichhardt. So, the dream of a deep run in the national rounds, maybe a few more cup sets beating A-League teams. Football New South Wales has put their best foot forward again.
They always do. It's very interesting to see, those NPL clubs now on the national stage, and even with the Australian Championship last year, just seeing that is next level. But I want to throw to the moment of the month.
Well, it was Fraser Park going 2-0 up. The second goal and then the Sydney Olympic comeback, the amazing crowd that they had down there. We'll ask a little bit more about that when Reuben Awaritefe joins us in the pod to talk about all things League 2. It's a league we don't cover often, so great to check in on that competition and have a word there. But what we will do is start in NPL Men's, and a club that finds itself in a bit of an unfamiliar battle at the moment. Travis Major, our guest from Blacktown City, is up next. Every NPL New South Wales match live, free and on demand on YouTube. Subscribe to the Football New South Wales YouTube channel today. So to our first guest, and from NPL Men's New South Wales from Blacktown City, Travis Major joins us. Great to have you in the studio. We spoke during, hard to believe, 3 years ago now, Women's World Cup. At that point, you would have been 1 year into your job, your kind of dual role as both player and general manager of Blacktown City.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I run operations at the club. So it's coming up to 4 years now in that role since I returned from overseas. So it's great that the club showed some faith in me to give me a position like that, and they've continued to let me, have that role. And obviously, like you said, that dual role of playing for the club and working for the club, they give me a great opportunity to balance that out with, taking care of my body, getting a bit older, and obviously balancing the role in the office.
We might circle back to the off-field stuff. Let's start with on-field. And I think, most people would look at the table, and if you were following the league from afar, it would be unfamiliar territory for Blacktown City, very much in a battle to climb out of the bottom two and get out of that promotion relegation spot that you currently occupy. But you are coming in off a good win at the weekend against Sutherland Sharks, and I guess it's a good time to ask, are the group starting to see and believe that a run up the table is possible, and just how aware is everyone of the circumstances? We're only just past the halfway point of the year that the club currently finds itself in.
Yeah, very unfamiliar territory for the club, for sure. I debuted in 2009, I think, and we've never missed the finals. So in a standpoint, we're in a position that I've never been in. So it's a completely different challenge, going from challenging for titles to obviously survival at the moment. If you look on where we are on the table right now, the playing group's obviously very aware of the position we're in, through no fault of it's our own fault, from mistakes we've made and decisions we've made on the field that have let ourselves down as a playing group. When I speak or Credo speaks, we make nothing hidden that we've never been in this position, and we as a playing group don't want to be the first squad for Blacktown to let the club down. The weekend was a really big game for us. We knew going in that a few results earlier in the day had gone against us with St George and Manly getting points and stuff like that. So I said to the boys, this is basically a grand final. You need to do whatever you need to do to get this win. Kick, scratch, fight. I don't care how we get the win, but we need to get a win. And I think the boys responded to that with some younger boys stepping up, and then just the boys at the back, were really resolute and strong. And then luckily we got a couple goals up top and saw out a good win.
And looking to the games ahead, you are versing the top three. You've got Sydney United, you've got the Arpias. How does it feel with you guys coming up this year now versing those big heavyweights? Yeah,
it's obviously a big confidence boost for the boys. Like I said, from the weekend, when we versed Arpia in round one, we had a send-off after 20 minutes. And it's hard enough beating Arpia with 11 men, let alone 10 men for 70 minutes. And we ended up losing that 3-2. So the boys ended up putting a good account for themselves in that match. But like I said, we let ourselves down again in that game. And coming into this week, that's something that obviously we're looking to rectify and change the result from round one.
I want to talk about not just your form, but the form of one of your teammates, Mitch Marlio. He joined us in here on this podcast last year, and we spoke about the surgery and his trip to America to revive his career and overcome what he initially thought was a career-ending injury. And now you're both in amazing form. You're trying to steer this ship in the right direction, and you're both getting it done. What's the secret? I'm sure there are plenty of veterans around the league that would look at you and Mitch and say, well, when I'm their age, I want to be playing as well as them. But it must take a hell of a lot of work, I imagine, to continue to perform at NPL 1 level for sure. As long as you have.
Yeah, for sure. I think first and foremost, me and Mitch are really, really good friends off the field, and I think that translates to on the field. Like, he came to Bali for my wedding, so he's just a really, really close friend. But we first played together in 2014 when he came in from the A-League, and then from then we've just had a really good connection. And I think partly because we're such opposite players that we complement each other. He can give him the ball one-on-one wide, and he can do it himself. He can create, facilitate like that. Whereas I'm happy to do sort of the dirtier work and get up for the challenges and graft and fight. And it's just sort of very opposite, but they complement each other. Like, I think we've gone weeks and weeks where we're just creating for each other and setting each other up, and that's been happening for sort of 10 years, where we've just got a really good understanding, whereas when he gets the ball, I sort of know what he wants and where he wants me to be, and then if I'm picking up the balls, I know where he's going to be and what sort of he wants. So I think it just complements each other.
As a whole team, what do you put the struggles down to this season? Is it something that Mark Crittenden, your coach, has identified as a broader trend? Has it just been, sliding doors moments in games, or, decisions, things that have gone against you, or decisions that players have made that have, cost you a point here, 2 points there? Or do you think there are broader trends that the team is correcting in order to turn the season around?
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's some broader trends that we're looking to correct over the whole of the season. I think we started a bit of a snowball effect earlier in the year when we got, I think it was 4 or 5 red cards in the stretch of 4 or 5 games, and they were red cards that affected the result overall for us. Like another one was we had a red card after 9 minutes against City United at City United. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to win that game with 10 men against the ladder leaders, which we didn't, and rightfully didn't. So I think it's just correcting some mistakes we've made and then tightening up some areas that probably needed a bit of correcting, which the boys have worked hard on the last few weeks. We've made a few tweaks in the formation and some personnel. So I think we've turned a corner now, but obviously time will tell.
And you did mention you made your debut for the club in 2009, and now you've been there for quite a considerable amount of time. What would you say to that man debuting in 2009? You've never been in this position before. What would you tell him about your journey at the club and also the club's journey? Yeah,
it's been such a long journey. Obviously, I've left and come back a couple of times, but I think this is year 13 or 14 for Blacktown's first team. And it's just been such a whirlwind experience that 18 or 19-year-old me, I didn't expect to play first grade at the club, let alone captain the club and win trophies and all that sort of thing. So I think looking back on it, breaking in as a right back and now being as a striker, I couldn't have foreseen the route that I would have taken. But obviously, I think you're telling yourself back then it's just keep working hard because you're not owed anything. Don't think you're entitled to anything. Hard work beats talent, and that for me that probably rings true because I didn't have the most talent.
How do you assess the changing face of the league? Because you would have seen, the likes of Bankstown, Bonnyrigg, and their slides away from the top division. Teams like UNSW, who even 3 years ago were in the 3rd tier, and I think even before then were in the 4th tier back when it still existed. Yeah. Just how different does NPL look and feel? Does it still feel like the same experience? Or when you're going away to, say, the Village Green UNSW for the first time as a player, it's like, well, this is totally new. Yeah. What happened to the NPL that I knew?
Yeah, it feels like it changes every 3 or 4 years. Not only the way teams play, and obviously that's in world football, the way teams play changes, but obviously the dynamic and teams that are coming up and going down. Like you said, Union New South Wales is a very, very new team to adjust to, and going to the Village Green was an experience. Obviously, they've got good home form for a reason. Playing on it is, another topic. But, it changes every year. And obviously, when the youth teams came in a few years ago, when they're on their day, they can absolutely destroy you. But when they're missing boys and they're out, they can have a bunch of 16-year-olds on the field and you can have your way. But it's very strange. It's week to week, it's year to year. Things change and it's very fluid.
I want to ask about young players or players who need to watch it at Blacktown City coming through. I was at the Cup game against Sydney United, but even before that match, there was an academy out there. There would have been 100 kids sharing that one pitch at Landon Stadium, just a hive of activity, and then the seniors came out and played. But who are some of the youngsters coming through the ranks at Blacktown City, whether they're breaking into the first team now, whether they're in your 23s and you've seen them coming through? Who do we need to keep an eye out for? And maybe not the second half of this season if the team, is at full strength and not changing much, but maybe just some ones to put in the memory bank for the future.
Yeah, I think there's a couple in the first team. Obviously, Riley Nolan, I think, has a big future. I'm a big fan of. I always have been saying that I think long-term he'll be the one to take my position. So I hope he does that. And then obviously Sebastian Hayward, who's had a lot of games in the last 2 years now. He's still only young, but he's getting games under his belt and long-term, could have a really good future. And same as Lockie Tilt, who's returned to the club. He's only 19, come back from West City Wanderers, and he's played, I think, every game this year and he's been stellar. But then if you look past that, I'd say under 18s are winning the comp, and they've got a few boys that just, if they keep progressing the way they're progressing, can do some good things.
Further to that, do you, with a bit of envy, look at the setup of the A-League now getting aggressively younger, so much more priority put on getting young players in, seeing if you can sell them overseas, kind of pump up their stocks and sell them, but also the addition of the championship, just a greater level of prioritising and platforming sort of the pathway for the players. The pathways always existed, but now maybe clubs are a bit more incentivised to reach deeper into the pyramid of football to look for players and give them an opportunity. Like your own journey, you got to play professionally for a number of years, but do you kind of think the youngsters today, they have so many more doors open to them because perhaps the professional levels of the game are looking so much more intently at who's coming through the NPL that they can... We saw it with Oscar Gonzalez from Apia signing for Newcastle just this week. Previously clubs might have been a bit more tunnel vision towards their academies. Now they're, I think, quite actively looking at first grade NPL for players that they can, turn professional into their ranks.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Obviously, there's a lot of boys that play NPL and they're young that never got picked up in the academies. So it's still good for them to know that even if they're not picked up in a Wanderers or a Sydney academy for 13s to 18s, and they're doing well in the NPL structure, and if they're still sort of under the age of 23 and they're performing, you've got a good shot at getting a trial or at least a look in at the A-League clubs. Whereas when I was sort of younger, you needed to be having an unbelievable year at NPL to even get a look in at a trial at one of the lower teams. So
mid-2010s, nationwide, the A-League might only take 3 or 4 players total out of the entire NPL,
100%.
in the entire all the NPLs in the entire country.
100%. So I remember when in our 2014 team we won the grand final, the Waratah Cup final that year, and we had 4 boys from that team go to the A-League in the year, and that was a big thing because NPL teams getting boys into the A-League wasn't that common. So we had Kieran Backus, Jacob Poscaliero, Zach Cancross, and myself all went to A-League teams from that team. So back then it was a really big thing, and now it's a lot more prevalent, which is rightfully so, because there's a lot of talent in the NPL, a lot of young boys that can take that step up and perform. They just need a chance, and they need to be put in that full-time environment where they have the chance to thrive and prove they can do it.
With that said, the NPL and the 3 points each weekend, it becomes so much more important in a season like this where things are so close. I was at Wanderers Football Park for their draw with St George City at the weekend, and just when St George City took the lead, they jumped from 10th to 7th.
Yeah.
Then the equaliser comes in and they drop back down to 10th. And the stakes and the consequences, and you mentioned that results had gone against Blacktown City during the day before you kicked off against Sutherland. Like, it's the sort of thing that later that evening, I imagine everyone's checking the scores on their phone to bring themselves up to date with the state of the league. Isn't it always? It's always mattered, winning the league, the 3 points, but even just it seems more acute than ever that eyes are on the NPL and the consequences of winning and losing, and the actual value of this competition is arguably as high as it's ever been.
Yeah, for sure. I think, it sounds horrible, but I've never had to look as closely as I have down to the bottom of the ladder just for the position we're in, but it feels like it's the most logjam I've ever seen from sort of 7th or 8th to 16th. I could be wrong, but it feels that way. And the importance to us for 3 points every week is obviously, it's huge now. So, if you win 2 in a row and get 6 points, you can jump 5 or 6 places, and then all of a sudden you've got a little bit of weight off your back. But at the same time, you can lose 2 or 3 in a row, and then you're really in the thick of it, and the gap can increase.
And with that, the consequences of winning and losing, like Taylor was saying, how do you not let that head noise affect you? You are part of the leaders and you are a captain of the squad. How do you not let that head noise get to you and also the other boys in there? Because I'm sure emotions would be running high.
Yeah. I try and internally take on as much of the pressure as I can. And I don't enjoy stress and pressure, but I find that I perform better under that sort of stress and duress. So, yeah, I've been trying to do my job and lead from the front and try and get some goals where I can and just leading that way. But yeah, it's a different situation.
Now I'm going to test your memory because I reckon we had introduced this segment 3 years ago when we last spoke to you. Dream 5-a-side team. I perhaps should have gone back and listened to the podcast from...
I don't think we did it, if I can remember.
No?
I don't
fair
think
enough.
so.
So if you had to name your dream 5-a-side, anyone you've been a teammate of over the course of your career, feel free to take us anywhere along the journey. Who would you pick?
God, I feel like I could do 2 teams I've been playing for so long. I'll just keep it NPL. So, and probably I'm still picking some players that are too old for people to know the players that I'm versing now. But keeper, I'd go Matty Ryan. Obviously, played with him in Blacktown first grade. Obviously, he's Socceroos captain, legend, one of the most famous players ever to come out of Blacktown. Obviously, knew from a young age when he stepped in for the first team that he was destined to bigger and better things. So obviously, he's gone on with that, and rightfully so. Centre back is a lifelong friend, Zach Cancross. So hopefully people are familiar with him. If they're not, they should be. He's a legend of the league, a legend of Blacktown. He's a championship winning captain, played over 200 games, played in the A-League, just a leader, strong, commanding, read the game unbelievably as a centre back, ball playing centre back. So Zach Cancross. This one, probably not too many people remember, but Ryuji Miyazawa. He was a Japanese number 10 that we had. Back in
Year range?
2013-14, he played for us. So he was a team member of mine and Mitch's, and I think 2014 when we won a lot of stuff, he had like 25 goal involvements out of number 10, and he was unbelievable.
Have you been able to follow his career since he left? Did
He went
go
back
to Japan?
He went back to Japan. I'm not sure the levels he played, but he was in the NPL at a time where it was hard to break into the A-League from the NPL, and as a foreigner it was even more difficult. So he was unlucky in that regard, but an unbelievable talent. And then I'm going to go 2 strikers. Up front, the first one is a guy named Tolga Osbey. So was the most prolific striker that Blacktown's ever had, and maybe the NPL. He had 78 goals in 77 games for Blacktown.
Would he have been supporting Australia or Turkey at the weekend?
I'm not sure. Hopefully Australia, but he could have been supporting Turkey, but he was just absolutely lethal. So he led us to a grand final win in 2010 in my first year, and he had more than a goal a game when we were there, and you defended with 10 because he'd just go where he didn't chip in defence, but you just got him the ball up front and he would score. And then last one, obviously, is Mitch Malia. I think that speaks for itself. We touched on earlier that. Did
he name you in his Dream 5-a-side team last
Yeah,
season?
he did.
He did. Okay,
so
well that's nice.
It's not tit for tat. It's definitely he would have been in there. First name on the team for me. Teammate for 7 or 8, 9 years now, and yeah, like I touched on earlier, a great friend, but an even better teammate. That's just, I think he's coming up to second in the all-time leading goal scorer for Blacktown as well, and he's a winger. So it just shows the impact he's had on the club and the amount of trophies he's won for the club.
Last one, we'll talk about the off-field side of things. How have you grown in that job? Is administration something you're thinking about into the future? Like, do you see yourself as sort of a club CEO or that sort of thing? Or
Honestly, I didn't even see myself as an operations manager 4 years ago. I sort of fell into the role and then just learnt as I go. And I think a good thing about me is that I understand that I don't know what I don't know. So I'm not afraid to ask questions about the role and learn things, and I've been lucky that I have some good board members that I've been able to lean on and ask questions. And then obviously Crido works full time for the club as the head of football and in the office next to me, so I can lean on him for advice like that. And it's got to the point I'm at now where I can sort of just do things myself without having to lean on anybody. I know what the role is. I know what the club needs when it comes up to the admin and contracts and compliance and governing bodies and all that sort of thing.
Has it? You may not have you may have a great lens on this, or may not be totally knowledgeable of what other clubs are doing, but have you been able to get an appreciation over your years in the role of just how different NPL teams do things, and think, oh, that's exactly how we might do it at Blacktown City. That's nothing like how we would do it at Blacktown City. And also just the resourcing levels as well. How some clubs, may not do things because they've never thought to put someone in the role to do it.
Yep.
Or you maybe look at other clubs and think, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a person that does that?
Yeah, you hear things of like other clubs having X amount of full-time staff and things like that, and murmurs of how they run things versus how you run things, and you sort of take some ideas from there if they're doing it well, or if you think that's not well done, you say, well, we definitely don't want to do that here. But yeah, it's different. You get a new appreciation of how clubs are run behind the scenes, going from a player just thinking, why isn't they doing that? When's this happening? When's that happening? Versus you're the one that's actually doing all those things. It's a new thing to take on, where you get a new appreciation for people who do backroom stuff for the club.
Well, it is a fascinating role, and I think hopefully that rubs off on your teammates, that they're grateful for the work that goes in behind the scenes more than anyone, because one of their own in the rooms with them is the one that's putting in all the work.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We know that there's going to be a hugely challenging second half of the season coming, so all the best in the battle that you currently find the team in, and congratulations on your own personal form, and thanks for joining us on Kickoff.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Big thanks to Travis Major for joining us, Maeve. Really interesting to hear about that balance of on-field and off-field that he's undertaking. But hey, the on-field is front of mind at the moment with what they've got to, do in this relegation battle that they find themselves in.
I think with Travis, what speaks to me most about what he was saying is just the experience that he has and also the mindset and mentality that he carries so well himself as one of the more senior players. And I think that definitely will and has translated throughout the team. They got their first win in a while, so it was nice to see that.
You're listening to Kick Off. Our focus turns to NPL Women's New South Wales next. Mitre is the official ball sponsor of NPL New South Wales and Football New South Wales Leagues competitions. Visit Mitre Sports Australia for all your football needs. Mitre, a different league. And we're going right up to the top of the league, both in terms of the teams and the scorers charts, because joining us from Bulls FC Academy is Olivia Vanderlaan. Olivia, congratulations on your season so far, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to chat today, and
So we were just chatting off air about your journey to Bulls. You were in the A-League system for a couple of years at Wanderers, and now you've moved to the top team in the NPL. Why that move? Where is your journey so far? You're still only a young player, and we've seen you in the NPL before at Sydney Uni before heading to Western Sydney Wanderers. But describe to us where you see your career at the moment.
Yeah, obviously, the move from Wanderers wasn't easy. I had a few years in the NPL, in the A-League. But, I think I just want to step back, work on myself, play with a little bit more experienced players. Hopefully my journey can continue and get back into the A-League next year. So, and I think, it's been exciting.
Tell us about Bulls, the club environment. Marty Garces as a coach. Obviously, they're the defending champions, so it's nice to walk into a team that already had a winning culture. But what first impressions did you get when you walked through their doors?
Yeah, I was really excited to work with Marty. I sat down with him before I joined. And, we've continued that winning mentality. Obviously, we're doing really well at the moment. And, the girls, it's a great group of girls, very talented, all over the park. And I think, we'd like to do the double again. So I'm really excited for that.
You talk about that experience, you've got Liz Gray, who's been a part of Bulls for a really, really long time. What do you think that experience does for you as a player, being surrounded by those more experienced? What are you taking from them? What are the little tips and tricks that you've learned to improve your game, or what do you want to learn to improve your game?
Yeah, I think as a young player, having experience around you is really important. Just, her leadership and everything is just something I really admire. And, there's so many experienced players, Jeremiah played with her at the Wanderers. So I think, having that leadership around you really, the aspects of their play where you're wow. So it really helps me grow as a player, and I think it's really important.
One thing that is always a balancing act is that ambition to do well in the NPL, break back into the A-League Women's. Almost every NPL Women's guest we have here, says that the A-League Women's is not a full-time job. You need another job.
Yeah,
you need to do the balancing act. You're still a student, so you're kind of in the perfect age range, I guess, to have those ambitions.
Yeah.
I guess after getting that first taste of the A-League system, what did you leave knowing that you needed to improve in your own game in order to get a better, longer go at it second time around?
Yeah, I think when I wanted to go into the A-League and play, I wanted to be there. I didn't want to just come on for 10 minutes. I know that's how you start, but I wanted to be a big impact. So I think, I had to work on just some aggression in my play and, just the speed of the game. It's a lot faster than, what you think. And I think, taking a step in the NPL and, coming to Bulls, I've really been able to, work on that. And it's kind of showed in the game, which I'm happy with.
Do you have any strikers that you model yourself on? Because I think one thing I noticed about you is there's variety in all your goals.
Yeah.
Where someone like Amber Luchtmeyer, a lot of her goals do look familiar because she knows how to get into goal-scoring positions. She has a shooting style that is quite recognisable, whereas you tend to mix it up quite a bit. Left foot, right foot headers, it doesn't really matter. I remember a goal you scored for Wanderers away to Apia, for example, last season, which was just a great, and you are quite tall, a great goal for a tall target woman striker. But it's not like you have one type of goal that you score. You tend to mix it up. How do you see your own game and what you're working on and developing? And is there anyone that you modelled your game on as a result?
Well, obviously, growing up, you had the Messis and Ronaldos and everything. But recently, I've started to watch Haaland a lot. And I think, he is a poacher in the box. But, just scores a variety of goals. He's good, headering as well. So I think scoring a variety of goals is important as a forward. I think you don't have, that if someone recognises that you're good on the right foot, you've got the left foot as well. And I think, you know, that's something I've really worked on, like growing up. Like I trained a lot with my brother and his friends, like, you know, working on the left foot, right foot and headering. So I think that's become really important, and yeah, it helps you score a variety of goals.
Is that something you notice that, I mean, you clearly watch games, but there are plenty of footballers who are good at football but don't necessarily love watching games. They don't watch other players to learn stuff and model their game on. Do you find that in Bulls there's a lot of players, I mean, I imagine that, you know, Dos Santos would be 1 and 2 on the list of players who are just so fanatical, watching everything, trying things that they see in players that they're watching. But how do you find the mix of players who just, you know, aren't fanatical about football and are good at it versus ones who are fanatical and are trying things to get better at it?
I think like probably 50-50. I think, you know, you can tell that some players are really trying like skill moves that like they didn't just probably that players that they've been watching have been doing. But I think, you know, watching football is really important. Like I've obviously followed the men's A-League since I was young. But yeah, I've only started really watching the Premier League, and, you know, with the World Cups coming on, the women's as well. And I think, you know, you start to learn a lot, like the way the players move and the way that they finish. So I think.
And when you're watching, how are you pulling out those moments? What speaks to you as something like a skill you want to try or a play you want to do? What has that shine for you?
I think just like the way that they finish the ball, I think, you know, the pass is just as good as the finish. But, you know, if you can have a really good finish rate, then, you know, all the chances you take, like, you know, you're guaranteed to score every game. So I think just the movement before the ball and then, you know, their finishing technique is something I really look at.
I wanted to ask about what I would describe as a very selfless culture at Bulls, in that your squad has so many players that could start for any team in this league, and they're trying to cram them into 111. So there's yourself, there's Amber Luchtmeyer, Daniela Naimi, Jade Guichon. You got both the Dos Santoses now with Indiana making her return from injury. There's a lot of players who have to make do with sitting on the bench or even playing in the 23s. What do you put it down to that everyone stayed? No one left during the transfer window. No one thought, I want to go to, you know, a different club and get game time. How is it that the culture has made players so unselfish in terms of knowing that this week I might be only getting half an hour off the bench, this week I might be playing an hour in the under-23s first?
Yeah.
What do you put it down to that there is that kind of, you know, collaborative approach to playing in the first team?
Yeah, like as I said, I think, you know, the group of girls were so strong together. You know, like it's not easy sitting on the bench, but I think, you know, everyone has the opportunity, like if you train well that week, then, you know, you might get that start. And, you know, just coming on and just giving everything you can. And yeah, it's just such a strong group of girls, and yeah, I'm really happy to be part of it.
What was it like seeing Indy make her return from her ACL at the weekend? Great that the Football New South Wales social team were there to see the moment, and obviously quite emotional for her, having lost a year of her career. But what was it like from a teammate's perspective? Because, you know, anyone who's gone to Bulls would have seen her there in her tracksuit watching Janaea, even before making that playing comeback. So everyone knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when. Take us inside the rooms. What was it like in the build-up to the game and her return?
Yeah, so I played with Indy back when we were in under-12s at like a Metro Far South tournament. So yeah, it's been like really special watching Indy, you know, do the things that she has in Sydney FC. But yeah, making her return, I think, you know, after 12 months away from football is so hard, especially for a girl like her who's just so driven and everything. So, you know, everyone was just so happy for her. You know, her family was there, and I think, yeah, it couldn't have gone any better way. And, you know, she did well.
And you topped it off with a win there at Spirit. How, in the change room after that beautiful game, what was it like?
Yeah, it was just so happy. Like, you know, we have a chant now, so, you know, just singing that is, yeah, just so special with the girls, and yeah.
In the change room for Bulls, I find, I was there last year. It was the semi-final before the grand final of the NPL. The energy in there, the song, the mascot, everything. What is it about Bulls and the team and the girls there that make those ordinary moments so special, especially in the change room? What is it?
Yeah, I think, you know, we're all just really good friends, and all there for each other. Like if someone else was to score, I think we're all happy for each other. And I think, yeah, it's just a great place to be around. And yeah.
You mentioned playing against your brother. You got a sister as well who plays in League One. So are you a footballing family, a competitive footballing family? What's the story with your siblings?
Yeah, so my brother plays just club at the moment, and my sister plays for St. George, like you said. I think, yeah, growing up, we've always been, you know, soccer family. You know, my dad's a surfer and my mum's a rugby union player. But, you know, like we just found that love for football so young, and, you know, they started playing and I was like, oh, maybe I want to play. And yeah, we just found that love and we all grow together, you know, even some of my brother's friends, you know, we all train, and yeah, it's really special to be able to connect over such a universal sport.
I want to ask about one of your former clubs, Sydney Uni. They're having a great season.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Do you have many common teammates, or has the squad largely rotated since you were last there? And when you look in from the outside, you know, what do you think of not just them, but some of the other top teams in the league and some of the other competitors that no doubt you'll have to be battling in the run into finals?
Yeah, I think since I've been there, the squad's rotated quite a bit. You know, players have gone everywhere else. But yeah, you know, there's no easy game in this league, especially now. And we're here for the battle, and yeah, you know, we're happy to play whoever faces us, and yeah.
And as we're rounding off this section of the episode, we get to do my two favourite segments. First, we're going to kick it off with your dream five-a-side of players that you've played with. It can be from any club. Tell us where you met them, what is their highlight, why they deserve a spot in your five-a-side.
And I appreciate that you are only young and early in your career, but I'm sure you've still got a dream five-a-side.
Yes, I do. So for goalkeeper, I have to start with Shem Combs at the Wanderers. I think her mentality, just her drive is everything. I think, you know, she really drives that squad, and, you know, I'm just, you know, so grateful that I was able to share, you know, the field with her. Centre back, I'd have to go with Liz Barwick-Gray. You know, just her experience and everything. Like, as a young player, looking up to her is just, yeah, something that I'm grateful for. Centre mid, I'd have to go Indy DeSantos. You know, I think the name speaks a lot for itself. She's very, very technical. She's very calm on the ball, and, you know, she's really intelligent football player. My other midfielder, I'd have to go Sienna Silvestre at Wanderers. I think, you know, I've always dreamt to be a left footer myself, so I think with a wicked left foot, yeah, she's an amazing player. And to top it off, I think Peter Trimmis. I went to school with Peter, and yeah, she's really good in tight spaces, always manages to get a ball in, so I think, you know.
And that was Endeavour Sports High?
Yeah.
Where she was teammates of yours. I mean, she's quite a diminutive player. I imagine she was even smaller and just an amazing player. As your high school team would have been pretty good if it had you two up front. And if you could describe sort of the character of that five-a-side team, you've isolated a lot of the different skills and qualities of that team. But any overall sort of word you'd use to describe that squad?
I think I'd describe it as like a strong mentality. I think, you know, football can be a really tough game. You know, you really need the lows to appreciate the highs. So I think, yeah, the mentality and, you know, good goal scoring ability in all of them.
Look, all I'll say is that's a five-a-side team I definitely would not want to verse. But another segment that I want to do, which is also my favourite, is a rapid fire. We want to talk about your squad. We want to know a little bit more. Don't really think about it too hard. Just tell us who it is. So who is the funniest in the squad?
I'd have to go with Sienna Hawkins. Like, she always makes me laugh at training. Also, Coco DeCipio. I know she's not in the squad, but she's always in and around, and yeah, she's quite funny.
Who's the best dressed?
I'd say Anna Hogarth-Scott. You know, good style, everything, yeah.
Who is always late to training?
Tammy Souza.
Who spends the most time in front of the mirror?
I'd have to say Danny Naomi.
Who has the best tunes in the dressing room?
Gemma is on game day, but Sarah Hunter started to do training, which we really enjoy, so yeah.
And which player from the Bulls do you see having the most impact heading into the finals?
I think Ash Hughes, our goalkeeper, I think she doesn't get enough credit for what she does. You know, so I have a perfect view of some of the shots standing at the front, and, you know, she just somehow gets a hand to them. So I'm, you know, really grateful we have her in our side. And obviously, you know, Liz Gray, just her leadership and her calmness on the ball. And, you know, I trust her with my life at the back. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on your season so far. Obviously, the second half of the season, you know, a race to potentially going back-to-back. I'm particularly interested to see how you go against Spirit at the weekend, because it'll be 11 totally different players to when you first played them. So a few fascinating little wrinkles with the A-League women's players dotted back through the competition, and all the best in your own ambitions to return to that stage. But I think the best way to do it is by winning trophies with the Bulls. So thank you for joining us on Kickoff.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Big thanks to Olivia Vanderlaan, of course, NPL Women's. Pretty red-hot title battle at the moment between UNSW and Bulls Academy. And we've had guests. We had Poppy Channing from UNSW come in earlier in the season. Now we've spoken to the Bulls side of the equation. And Apia on the outside looking in at the moment, Maeve. And you get out there to match of the round quite a bit. I know that we're only just past halfway, but do you have an inkling as to who's going to get the job done? Because we've got some pretty good teams, Wanderers not to be discounted as well, in the top 4 that are really in a genuine 4-way battle for the title at the moment.
I think for me, it definitely comes down to UNSW and Bulls. I think both of them, UNSW, they are, just so full of life. And also at the same time, they're determined. Hell or high water, they're going to make it. And I think for them, that's definitely what's pushing them to be the top. And they have the talent. They have the skill, especially, their strikers up the front and their wingers are just so powerful and quick. I think they definitely are a strong contender. And Bulls as well. They've been there, done that. They are the defending champion. And I think they have so much maturity and experience that Olivia also spoke about, Liz Barr with Gray. And also that game where Indy made her return was so emotional. So I'm excited to see where they go. But those are my top 2 picks.
And let's not forget Sapphire Cup semi-finals this week. So
Yes.
First piece of silverware in that first cup final of the season is just around the corner. And, a team that, would need a bit of a miracle run to make the finals like the Northern Tigers, they're still in contention. So it's a fascinating run. And let's not rule out Northwest Sydney Spirit being a bit of a wrecking ball in the back half of the year. I was out at Christie Park commentating the first game where all the A-League women's players and Australia under-20 players came back, and they had a good win against the Gladesville Ravens, and they've been on a 3-game winning streak since then. They run into Bulls this week. So I think we're going to find out whether they're going to easily avoid relegation and, be mid-table in the club championship by the end of the season. Maybe, who knows, if they go on a long winning streak, maybe even give the top 4 a crack, or if they're just going to, say if they lose to Bulls this week, maybe just avoid relegation will be number 1 priority, and then anything else is a bonus. But they've certainly started the second half of the season pretty well.
Yeah, definitely started out strong. But on the Northern Tigers, I will be there for their semi-final for the Sapphire Cup against Manly United. So I think it will be very tight. I'll be interested to see who takes that spot for the grand final.
Yeah, and again, Manly, a team that's like, they've got to get a winning streak going to get to the top 4. So Sapphire Cup might be their best chance of a trophy. We're going to turn our attention to League 2 next. It's a competition that we're excited to talk about, and our guest is coming up on the other side of this.
Day after day, Kappa rewrites the concept of sportswear. Kappa means teamwork, past, present, and future. Kappa never stops, 'cause winning starts within. 2 people, 1 brand. Kappa.
Now it's time for our Leagues chat, and I believe this is the first guest we've had from Men's League 2. Firstly, Mark Stav, the producer of this podcast, has asked that we acknowledge that Mounties Wanderers are 16 points clear at the top of the league, and I believe a lot of work is going in behind the scenes to potentially get a guest from Mounties Wanderers on one day. But below that is a red-hot promotion battle, and one team that very nearly captured the nation's hearts and got onto the national stage of the Australia Cup round of 32. They agonisingly missed out in round 7. It was Fraser Park. They are right in the thick of that promotion battle, and joining us is Reuben Awaritefe, a name well known from NPL 1 and also a bit of League 1 football in recent years. But Reuben, thanks for joining us. Great to have you on Kickoff.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We were discussing before we hit record why Fraser Park. Give us a bit of the thinking as to how you ended up there, because I remember only 2 years ago you were scoring against Adelaide United in the national rounds of the Australia Cup, and now we see you in League 2. So kind of tell us about what's happened and why you've ended up at Fraser Park.
Yeah, so I think I was at Blacktown. I really enjoyed it there, but I struggled with injuries, and we had a really good team. It was tough to get into the team. We had Joey Gibbs playing up top, and he was really good. And Trav, Mitch Marley, just some really good players. Jack O'Brien was scoring for fun, so it was tough to get into that team. So I ended up going to Sutherland's to try and get back, but unfortunately I had a shoulder surgery, so I kind of missed all the pre-season. So it was tough to, I was really underdone going into the season, and I think we were struggling at Southo to kind of get results. So I ended up going back to Blacktown mid-season and played the last 10 games, and then that was my I was like, I need to go somewhere I'm going to play and get 30 games in and not get injured and just have a good environment to play in. And I think Fraser was kind of that. I know Mason Fernandez, who's there now, he was at Southo when I was there, and I spoke to him about it, and he kind of just said, pre-season's been really good, the boys are really good, coach is really good, the club's going where they want to go, so it's a good club to be at. And that was kind of enough for me to be like, yeah, it sounds like it's a good project and I'd be happy to join. So that was it.
Let's talk about this promotion battle you're in. What are your impressions of League Two? Mounties have got this massive lead, but you look at the table, there's only 4 points between second and seventh.
Yeah.
It feels as though that Pro Rel playoff spot could be anyone's at the moment. What is Fraser Park going to have to do to make it theirs?
Yeah, you're right. I think everyone's playing for that second place spot. Every week's pretty much do or die because if, as you say, you lose and you go to like ninth and then you win, you're back to second. So I think every week you got to be on it because there's teams are 1 or 2 points behind you. So every week is a battle. You've just got to push through and just keep consistency and just try and just string results together. Your
own form, are you happy with your goal tally so far? Is this what you thought League Two football would be like?
It's definitely different football. Not happy. I think you can never be satisfied, but definitely not happy with my goal tally so far. But there's always room for improvement, and I've got 10 games left, so I can try and score a bit more and see how we go.
Are you the sort of striker that sets yourself a benchmark, or do you just take it as it comes? Or
I think every striker does, but I think this year, for me personally, it was more kind of just playing and getting game time and getting back into the game.
And you're on track for 20 plus. You must be happy with that. I mean, halfway through, you're on 9. I hope I haven't sold you short. So
yep.
you must be looking at a decent number by the end of the season. All things going to plan.
I hope so. Yeah, I think just getting my body right and just being a team. And honestly, as long as we're winning games, that's if we get promoted, that's the main goal. So if we get promoted, I'm happy with that.
You mentioned it's a different type of football. What is that difference from playing across all the different leagues? What's the difference?
It's a very transitional league. I think you'll find that most teams are very forward and back very quickly. I think higher levels, teams like to keep the ball more, and it's a lot more structured football sometimes. But I think League Two is very transitional. It's very physical. It's a very different league. So it's taken a bit to get used to, but it's enjoyable, which is good.
Tell us about some of your teammates at Fraser Park and the people in the club. There was an amazing crowd for that Sydney Olympic game, and it would have been fascinating to see them on the national stage and getting the spotlight shone on them. But take us inside the four walls of the club. Who have you got to know, and what have you got to know about the place?
Yeah, I think the board members are really good with all the boys. I think they've really helped us in the cup run, especially. Like, they gave us some nights off. They gave us some recovery sessions. I think that really helped us all. So the board have been really good with all the boys and around the club. The coach as well, Arthur's been really good with all the boys, I think. And yeah, all the boys are a great bunch of lads. I think they've all really bought into the project and kind of where we want to go. And yeah, I think the cup run, like, we got all the younger boys down, and I think it was really good for the young kids to come and watch and kind of, you speak to the parents and they were all saying, like, we want to play first grade, we want to play for Fraser, and I think it was good for the club to kind of get that stage and kind of push the club to where they want to be.
And with the promotion relegation, you're constantly riding the wave, the ups, the downs. What is the mindset going into the next game and the next games ahead, continuing to battle for that second place spot? Because currently you are third. There's only 1 point between you and second. What's the mindset?
Yeah, the mindset is pretty much just every game is a must win, honestly. As I said before, you lose a game and you're in sixth and you win, you're back to second, and there's a lot of clubs that are still playing for that second place and that can make that second place playoff. So I think just every game when we go into the change room, we just say, boys, it's a must win. Like, we got to show people why we're at the top and why we're, potential contenders to get that second place playoff, and kind of just show everyone that we're not just here to make up the numbers and we want to get promoted.
If I can take you back a couple of years to that Adelaide United game, scoring against an A-League team in the Cup. How does that stack up against some of the team achievements, some of the individual achievements? You came off the bench that night in that game, went to extra time. I believe your goal was to get it from 3-1 back to 3-2 and just couldn't quite pull off the comeback and get it to penalties. But where did that stack up, and what did it say to you about sort of a sense of, hey, I just scored against an A-League team. This is proof of everything that I'm working towards as a footballer.
Yeah, I think, scoring against Adelaide was really good. I think, as you say, it does prove to yourself that, you can be at that level, and if you put in the work and put in the hours, you can potentially get to the A-League. So, I think it was a good kind of milestone to kind of stack up against them and see where I was at. And, it's good to score a goal against them, which is good.
I wanted to ask about your dad, Francis, a former Socceroo, and obviously, for someone my age, who when I was a teenager watching the NSL, immediately memorable player, I think, for his exploits then. Given that you are quite a bit younger than me, does it feel like ancient history? Does he tell you old war stories about his time in the NSL and his experiences in football? And how do you sort of reflect on, what he did in the, coming to Australia from England? Really, I think it's even on YouTube, the video of when Melbourne Knights first brought him to Australia. And there was great hopes for this young man who, was their international signing. But how do you reflect on sort of the dynamic of having him as your dad?
Yeah, I think he had a really good career. It's I'm really proud to be his son. I think, playing for the Socceroos is not an easy thing to do. Not many people have done it. So it's a really big achievement for anyone. So I think having him as a mentor has been really good. He's hard on me, but I think I need that. I think I need someone who, doesn't sugarcoat things. And I think especially when I was younger and kind of going through the A-League system, he was very much kind of like, you're in there to work. I think I kind of had a bit of a mindset of like I was in there and it was enjoyable and it was fun and I was making friends, but he had to remind me several times that it's, at the end of the day you're there to play football and you got to, every day is a day to improve and you need to take it and use that opportunity to become a better footballer. And
you're setting yourself up for life after football with your study, but probably a long way away at the moment in terms of having to make decisions on what comes next. But do you have, given Francis's work in, player advocate space, player unions and so forth, is that something that interests you, or do you want to go in a new or a different direction with your own personal career away from the pitch?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, I hear him on the phone all the time, so I don't know if I can deal with the stress, but he does some really interesting stuff. Like I speak to him a little bit about it, and I think, the PFA does some really good stuff for footballers in Australia. So that's definitely a route I think about taking and kind of following in that route. And, I love sport and being in and around it. So I think still a bit of a way off deciding what I want to do. So.
Fair enough. To bring it back to the NPL, I guess you've had a lot of experiences, in A-League academies, NPL level. Where do you see the NPL at and what it does in terms of, one thing that I think a lot of us love about this competition is it's so comprehensive. 30-game seasons in the top two flights, and League Two, pretty, for a third-tier competition, it's still a lot of football, a huge commitment out of anyone's year to be involved. But where do you see NPL at? If you sort of had a wish list for one thing that the NPL did have that it currently doesn't, what's sort of the next development or the next thing that you'd love to, see as just commonplace at every NPL club that maybe it's not quite there, that's come down from the professional game just yet?
I think probably transitioning clubs into full-time environments where you can really start to kind of, if you do drop out of that A-League environment, you kind of still have, I think there's some big clubs like RPR Marconi's. I think the Championship was good to show that they have the facilities and they can be full-time clubs. But I think having one or two in the NPL that you can drop down and you get that full-time environment, that professional environment. I think that would help a lot of clubs and a lot of players that drop down from a high level to get back there, because I think sometimes it's hard to go from playing, every day, training every day in a professional environment, and you come down to NPL and it's a bit different. It's only 3 nights a week, so you lose a lot of momentum. So I think that's probably the next best thing, is to kind of have clubs that are going to be full-time.
I want to bring it back to your squad and your team. You've got some amazing talent, especially a lot of young talent. Who are the rising stars that we should be keeping an eye out for?
There's a couple of players who have actually impressed me, considering they're in League Two. I think Greg at the back in our team, Iosi, he's only 21, I think. He's a really young, up-and-coming centre-back. He's big, he's strong, he's quick. He's a left footer, which is good. He's really impressed me this year. I think he's just getting better and better. Got some wingers like George Gralakis has been really good. He's a winger, but he's been all over the place. He's been playing left back, left wing, right wing. He's, I think, really stepped up for us in terms of covering for other positions, and he's done like a phenomenal job so far. And obviously Mason Fernandez, another big player for us. He's come down from NPL 1 and he's taken the league. I think he's on 7 or 8 goals, and he's one of our star players, and he makes our team tick, and he's really creative, and he's a really big help for us.
It sounds like you've got a lot of young rising talent there. If you were going to describe the energy of the squad, what would it be?
I think we're just a squad of young players, and I think they're at their point in their careers where chasing promotions and improving is really top of their bliss. And I think just there's a lot of energy in our squad, and yeah, lots of energy, lots of fight, lots of spirit, and I think that's what's going to help us get to that second place.
We're going to wrap it up with the quick fire questions. This is one of my highlights. Don't think too hard about it. Just say who comes to your mind. So who is your favourite player that you've ever played with?
Oh, played with. There have been a lot. Favourite player? I honestly couldn't.
You can pick two if you'd like.
There's so many players I've played with that I've loved playing with over the years. I don't think I could pick a top 10, to be honest.
Okay, favourite moment from your playing career?
Probably winning the league with Mariners in the 20s and first grade. That was really enjoyable.
Do you have any pre-game rituals or superstitions you stick to?
Not particularly. I like to eat ice cream the night before I play a game. I think that's probably kind of my one ritual I do.
Best advice that coach has ever given you?
Well, that's a good one. I had Patrick Zvanzvac. He was my coach. Actually, he was my coach at school when I was at Central Coast Sports College, and then he was my coach at Wanderers. But he had a really good saying he always used to tell me was whenever I would complain or I wasn't playing or I wasn't doing something, he'd always say, "You're not ready," and he would use the word "yet." I think that was really important because he said, you might not be ready, but the word "yet" after that is really important. I think that was a really good driving factor in terms of, maybe you were doing well one week and you thought you should be somewhere else and you just thought you're not ready yet. And that "yet" is the kind of the difference between being somewhere when you should and being somewhere a bit too early and the complications that comes with.
And an old teammate that you wish your team would sign?
Old teammate, probably, I don't know, Max Ballard, Lewis Miller. There's a couple of Socceroos I played with, so maybe one of those big
Max
big
Ballard
like
in League 2 would be pretty devastating. But,
I think he would take it. Yeah, he would kill it.
That's all I have, but I just want to throw it back to the ice cream. What flavour do you have?
Triple caramel chunk, Ben & Jerry's. You have to try it.
Oh, there you go.
You're in superb shape. So if that was my pre-match ritual, things might get a lot worse. Reuben Awaritefe, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the insight into Fraser Park. All the best in the promotion battle, and all the best for your career. And hopefully this move you've made, fascinating as it is, can lead both yourself and the club to greater heights in the future.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys.
Big thanks to Reuben Awaritefe for coming in and talking about his journey through football. Got a bit of a unique perspective. He's played in pretty much all levels of NPL, and good to see that the move to Fraser Park is working out as far as keeping them competitive. Maeve, that's it for kickoff for this edition. But you'll be out on the sidelines at games, interspersed with working for SBS on the World Cup. So stay busy. Make sure you get plenty of sleep in the meantime as well.
Yes, I'll try my best, but yes, it's nice to be back out and around the grounds for Match of the Round, especially with the silverware coming up. It's always the tail end of the season is my favourite.
Well, same for me. A-League season is over and the emerging championships have already been played. So I'm diving headfirst into NPL. I've been getting out to games, even the ones I'm not commentating, just to keep an eye on things going on around the competition. Obviously, love hearing, the guys like Alex Molchanoff and Will Constantinidis calling their games and following. I always keep an eye on where Nicholas Kutniak is going each week because I know I'll be entertained when Cutters is behind the microphone. Yes. So all the best to all our media out there who are covering this league. And you can follow every game in NPL Men's and NPL Women's on the Football New South Wales YouTube channel each week. Plus, you get Game of the Round in League One Men's and Women's as well. Maeve, my calendar's pretty full, so I think I've got Belmore, Northbridge Oval, got a trip. I was at Wanderers Football Park last week, but I'm pretty sure I'm heading back out there again soon. So I'm just looking forward to getting out and being a part of the action like everyone else.
Me too. I'm spending a lot of time in North Turramurra this week. I have, like I said, the Sapphire Cup semi-final for Tigers versus Manly, and then on the weekend, the Match of the Round for the women's is Northern Tigers versus Manly United. A double up. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, a massive shout out to the media team as well, everyone who's doing Match of the Round. And Football New South Wales has launched an NPL TikTok. Did you know that, Teo?
Look, I'm not a TikTok user.
Come on.
Maeve. I get sent links and I have to download the app in order to watch them. I'm a bit old for this stuff, Maeve.
Well, now you need to download the app and follow NPL New South Wales on TikTok for all of the Match of the Round action and any other things happening across the NPL.
Sensational. And all the Football New South Wales socials are always a hive of activity each weekend, thanks
know
to the content team that's pumping all that out. Wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you subscribe, rate us 5 stars while you're there, and we look forward to our next lot of guests next time we meet up for kickoff. You hadn't seen the new studio set up here at Valentine Sports Park, Maeve. It's looking pretty good at the moment, isn't it?
It is next level. I haven't seen it yet, and then now today was awesome. Massive shout out to our podcast producer, Dylan, and the Football New South Wales team for pulling this off. If you're watching, it's amazing. We've got some lovely curtains. We've also got some nice jerseys from the NPL and the leagues around us at the back. So massive shout out to them.
Maeve, thank you. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Teo.
And on behalf of all of us, my name's Teo Pellizzeri. Thanks for listening to Kickoff.
What a save.
She gets around Dumba, out wide, but she puts it in the net. Lovely strike, lovely bit of play.
Oh, and he's looking to catch the goalkeeper out. It is an unbelievable goal.